Hi dandelions. The house is completely empty tonight. I am all alone. I decided to forego on the event for this evening. My friend's band is playing. Everyone in the world, it probably seems like, is there. And I didn't think I could handle the level of sociability that was going to be required for that tonight, to be honest. So I decided to hang back and hibernate. And it occurred to me that it would be the perfect time to do a bit of a video fest. So if you see like 4 or 5 videos with me wearing this stuff, do not fear, I do shower and I do change. I just decided to make loads of videos, kind of like backed up ideas while the house was empty, because it does get a bit chaotic and I kind of feel like I need the top floor to myself when I make videos. I need that little penthouse suite kind of feel. So I'm doing it now. And my first video is going to be a response to Shannon Caelia. We've chatted back and forth and I really love her videos. I love her countenance. I just love her energy. I love what she has to say and I really like the way that she puts it across. So I watched her most recent video and she was talking about a bunch of things, but the thing that really struck me was the stuff that she had to say about online communication and about something that I said, in fact, about the level of vulnerability that you have when you present yourself online and how you can kind of choose your level of vulnerability. You can choose what you show to people online, and how I was kind of positing that as a good thing. And she was saying that she's not actually sure upon further exploration whether or not that's a good thing, because it kind of, I think this is what she was trying to say, she said it kind of gets in the way maybe of forming a genuine connection and of having that genuine bond with other people. You know, letting them have only a very restricted window into your life might not enable them to connect with who you really are. And she was saying how some of her friends would consider her to be very goofy, but maybe if she restricts her level of vulnerability and kind of openness, other people might not kind of get that. That might not come across. And is it okay that that kind of thing doesn't come across? Which really got me thinking down a few different avenues. The reason that I said that you can choose your level of vulnerability and that that is a good thing is because, well, first of all, I was kind of referring only to spiritual community, pagan community, covens, moots, and that kind of thing. I do feel like when you are putting across, when you're putting forth your spiritual outlook and your spiritual concerns, there is a massive level of vulnerability anyway. And I spoke about that in the Me, Myself and I video that I did, where I talked about why I would never become part of a coven. You know, the fact that my spirituality is so important to me, so meaningful to me, and so central to my being, that if I were to feel that it had ever been undermined or attacked or anything like that, that would put me in a state of vulnerability that was not fun and not cool. And I kind of feel like I only want to give people some of that and I want to share that, but principally I still want it to be mine and mine alone. And I also talked in the Me, Myself and I video about group dynamics and group politics and how that kind of thing can be hectic and difficult enough, but when you actually tie it in with your spiritual concerns and your spiritual practice, for me that would just be unbearable. If things were to go tits up, I would not be a happy bunny. That's basically what I'm saying. And I think that's one of the main reasons why, even if I was to find a very open minded coven that was kind of an umbrella coven for plenty of different paths and we could have debates and such, I don't think that I would ever practice ritual or magic or anything else like that with other people, because there comes to be this group dynamic, there comes to be this sense of compromise, this sense of hierarchy. And I suppose that's what I really meant when I talked about choosing your level of vulnerability. I meant choosing what you expose your spiritual practice to, choosing who you engage with on a much more controlled level so that you feel safe. And I don't mean, you know, obviously I do believe in holding your vibration high. I don't believe people can like hex you if you hold your vibration high enough and things like that. That's my personal belief. I really believe that you can only succumb to somebody else's bad intent towards you if you permit that and if you allow that. And I think that's the opinion of the vast majority of witches on YouTube from what I've seen. But, you know, I do feel like it's not really that I'm talking about with vulnerability. I'm not talking about kind of literal or physical vulnerability. I'm just talking about the difficulty which comes with people questioning you in a way which isn't nice, being passive aggressive towards you over things that you really feel and believe in, you know, people trying to maybe attack certain things that you believe in, or just things that could happen potentially in a coven environment where things kind of might go a little bit sour, or you may have to compromise on certain things, or you may have to word things in a certain way so that you don't get into hot water. I feel like putting yourself across on YouTube and talking about your spiritual pathway on YouTube, you get to decide how involved you are. You're not going to be embroiled in drama if you don't want to be. And you don't have to put your voice to a debate or say what you think if you don't want to, if you think that it's a bad move or if you don't like the feeling of it. Whereas with moots and covens and things like that, you often are unintentionally enmeshed because you are a part of it. You are party to it. So I think it's much more difficult to pull yourself out of any hot water because it's almost like you are slung in there, kind of par for the course. So that's what I kind of meant by online vulnerability when it comes to discussing your spirituality and stuff like that. I kind of feel like you can choose your level of involvement. And I really appreciate that feeling. And that's something that I've really gelled with since I started on YouTube, that I can just do my thing and I don't have to be involved in things that I feel might be kind of unhealthy for me, or I don't have to kind of swim in any waters that I don't feel are right for me. I don't have to posit my point of view on anything that doesn't feel right for me. I can just do what I want and then log off, and that's it. And I can choose to engage with the people that I clearly vibe with and I clearly get that good energy from. So yeah, I guess that's what I meant. And I also feel like, you know, what you were saying, Shannon, about how maybe it's not good to choose your level of vulnerability, meaning to choose your level of openness or to choose what you show, about how maybe that kind of breaks off the ability for connection. I also feel like it's really important to understand, and maybe this is kind of off the cuff and irrelevant, but I feel it's really important for people to understand that they have a complete right to privacy, and that having a channel or a blog or whatever, any kind of outlet on the internet that kind of exposes one part of your character or talks very in depth about one thing that you're interested in, doesn't mean that you are being disingenuous by not exposing the rest of yourself. And Cara from Cute Witch actually said something really interesting the other day about Facebook, about how people regularly request her from Facebook, people from the online world, and she just flat out dismisses their friend request, not through anything personal, but just because, you know, there's personal things on her Facebook. She really only invites people that she actually knows onto Facebook, so it'll be the odd few people that she's very close with online that she's formed a genuine bond with, and then of course it'll be people in her real life, as we call it. And I'm exactly the same way. I have a Four Queens page where I kind of do the back and forth thing with other people who have pages that kind of represent what they're doing online and what they believe in. They post pictures and thoughts and all that kind of thing. And I absolutely love that. You know, I engage with those people every day and I post stuff on that page every day. When it comes to my private Facebook, yes, people from the online world have already tried to add me, and I will never add any of them, and it's nothing even remotely personal. It's just that I have a lot of stuff on my personal Facebook page that will never see the light of day on this channel, and I don't feel that that's disingenuous. That's my personal stuff. For example, I have no intention whatsoever of ever discussing politics on this channel. For me, spirituality doesn't have to be in any way tied into politics. It is for me in my mind, and it is for me in my life, but when I'm talking about my spirituality, I'm talking about that. I'm not talking about what's gone on in the world or what I think of it. I'm not discussing current affairs, and I don't feel that that's disingenuous. On my private Facebook page, I often discuss current affairs, I discuss politics, I discuss my preferences, my plans, everything. Things that I'm comfortable sharing with those people who are on my friends list, but would I want kind of like the wider online community to read all of it? Would I want to be embroiled in certain debates that may come up as a result of them seeing those things? No, I am choosing my level of involvement, I'm choosing my level of vulnerability, and I think that it's very important to accept the right to privacy. And especially, I think, this is kind of really going off track here, but I think lately a lot about the fact that self-development gurus, spiritual gurus, self-development writers, people in the self-help community, people who posit advice about living and loving and spiritual meaning and all that kind of thing, have been dragged down in the media for what's gone on in their private lives, and have been dragged down for um, doing things that one would feel was beneath somebody who is trying to posit advice about how to live. And I'm not talking about really terrible things that they may have done. I'm just talking about casual conversations or casual pieces that I've seen in the media that kind of dismiss one person or another who's in the limelight because they said there's nothing wrong with wanting to make money, or dismissing somebody in the limelight because they're going through a divorce, or they've been defamed in one way or another for not being kind of like for not being the perfect image of what somebody that's teaching other people how to live should be. And I think that's kind of ridiculous. I would never ever want to get advice on self development, on spirituality, on anything like that from somebody who I feel hadn't really lived. And I think a lot of the stuff, the vicious stuff that I've seen online about people who are trying to posit advice and be helpful to others, is kind of like along the lines of, well, I hear she has this whole other life where this happens and that happens and she's not so great and she's been through addiction and all this kind of thing. My personal opinion is, good. You go through addiction and you come out the other side and then you tell other people how to do it. I do not want to be taught about life, love, laundry, the universe and everything by somebody who's had a completely perfect life, a completely perfect upbringing, and has never really had to go through any shit. If I hear that there is some adversity regarding somebody who's trying to posit self-development advice online, you know, that they've been through things, or they've been addicted, or they've done this, or they had to, you know, whatever, they're not that perfect image of what somebody who's living the perfect life should look like, I am encouraged by that. I am more likely to watch their videos if they've been through some crap. But I also believe in the right to privacy. Those people that are coming along and trying to defame people, that are putting you know, instruction out online or help out online, or trying to build a business around that, those people are the people that are spiritually impoverished because they don't understand something absolutely vital. Whatever you put out in the online world, you are still entitled to a private life. You are still entitled to hold certain things back. It doesn't mean that it's disingenuous to only show, you know, one side of your character. We are all extremely multifaceted beings. We are so multifaceted. There are so many layers to each of us. And if I kind of like splurged out all of my layers and everything that I am, and all of the levels that I work on, and all of the different things that I think, and in fact all of my innate contradictions too, I would literally be sat in front of this camera all day and all night for the rest of my life. You don't need to see that much of me, believe that's true. The stuff that I put out there is the stuff that I'm really comfortable putting out there, that has to do with the subjects that this channel was supposed to be started for. And I know in my heart that there is nothing disingenuous about not permitting people from the online world to have a look at my private Facebook page or anything else, because there's a lot of stuff that I don't want to put out there. There's a lot of stuff that I go through that I don't want to put out there. And like I said, there are a lot of opinions that I hold and avenues in my kind of thoughts that I don't think kind of need to be hashed out with people who have approached me on a certain level because of a certain subject that I'm interested in. They don't need to come with me on the rest of the journey into everything else that I think and feel. That's not necessary. It's not that I'm hiding it at all. It's just that there are some things that you only want those people that are close to know about. So, you know, and I think recently I saw a video by Flora Peterson. I think she posted it today, and it was absolutely amazing. It was her bonus video after her Fearless Friday video. And it was so beautiful. Like, I was moved to tears, and I don't mind saying it, because she really had this moment on camera that was so raw and just so genuine. And bless her, I absolutely welled up. And it's those genuine moments of connection when we really get below, when we really get down there. And I think you're right. I think that showing a part of your vulnerability in a video really helps people to connect with you. And, you know, it's not for any other reason than just to enjoy human connection, just to believe in the power of human connection. And I felt it myself when I did my Goddess at the Crossroads video, and a lot of people really responded to it and emailed me and told me that they'd felt a similar thing, or they were going through something similar. I realised that showing that vulnerable side of me, even though I said in the video, I'm really not sure whether I'm going to put this up, showing that vulnerable side of me was what I actually needed. And I didn't realise for a long time after I started this channel, I didn't realise I was looking for connection. It's not obvious to some people that they're looking for connection. It's kind of not really thought of. When I started this channel, what I really wanted to talk about was tarot. I wanted to posit the experience that I had and put forth the knowledge that I'd amassed and get something back. And kind of, yes, I did want to make a connection on kind of an academic or surface level, I suppose, when we're talking about knowledge of the cards and exchanging that knowledge and such. But I did not realise, not in any world, that what I was really looking for was a connection with my spiritual community. I didn't realise how healing it would be, and I didn't realise how validating it would be, and I didn't realise how wholesome it would feel to me. So I didn't start out looking for that kind of connection. And so I suppose I didn't really think when I first started the channel about the importance of showing a little vulnerability and of talking about my own path. And now that I've started doing it, I feel like it's a really amazing thing. I'm really pleased that I have done it. And, you know, that video by Flora Peterson just goes to show that what you're doing is absolutely, what you're saying, sorry, is absolutely right. When you put forth that vulnerability, when it comes from a pure place, then it's a very beautiful thing, and it helps you to connect. And, you know, it's not just so that person can feel validated through your connection, it's just for the sake of human interaction, because it feels good, because it's beautiful, because it's what we crave, it's what we go after. So I was thinking, you know, about both of those kind of sides to the coin. And also I was thinking about how, I don't know if this is just because I am English, but as many of you will know from the obscenely overdone stereotypes, which do always have a grain of truth, I think, we are pretty reserved people in the grand scheme of things in comparison to Europeans and Americans. We are more kind of like Japanese with our emotions, I suppose. We have that feeling of hanging on and bearing up and stiff upper lip and that kind of thing. And, you know, we are evolving slowly out of the dark ages, but we do have a very amplified sense of propriety, I feel. It is very ingrained into our culture. And I suppose maybe it's because I'm English that I think this, although if you are from anywhere else in the world and you think this too, then please do let me know. When I first started my YouTube channel and I started talking a little bit about my path, I decided that, you know, in order to be considerate to other people and in order to actually put something forth that was useful, that was helpful to other people, and that was engaging and helpful for the community that I was trying to come into and be a part of, I would have to really, really cut down my vulnerability to like here and really put forth stuff that was useful and that was productive and that was helpful to others. You know, I don't think that many people have ever said something like, you know, I love this girl who's always complaining on her channel about every little thing in her life and whinging like hell. She's always crying and breaking down. She's showing me her vulnerability. She's telling me all about her horrendous past and how she feels her future is a black hole. And my God, I've got so much out of her channel. She's really benefited me and the community. Like, you know, when people talk about someone's YouTube channel and how helpful it's been and how inspiring it's been, it's always because it is lively and communicative. It's because there's some kind of instruction there, there's some kind of willingness to help, to open up about the knowledge that they have and to also extend their interest in the knowledge that you have. So it's always about that interaction, and it's always about putting forth something that you really want to say that you feel will be helpful to other people. And when I started my channel, all I wanted to do really was to be helpful, was to put forth some of the knowledge that I've gained on tarot from the, well, I suppose it's over a decade of work altogether, but the 2 years that I was really hardcore for tarot, when I did all of my really, really stringent book study, I really felt like that had really built up in me. And I'm not a maternal person and I don't ever intend upon having children, but I really get now what a lot of parents or would-be parents or expecting parents mean when they say that they wanted to pass their wisdom on to somebody, that they wanted to give their wisdom, they wanted to pass on the life lessons that they'd learned. I felt that about tarot. I didn't want to have babies to be able to do it, but I wanted to put it somewhere. I felt like it needed to come out, and I felt like I needed to be more actively involved in that community too. So yeah, when I first started the YouTube channel, I was not aware that I was after that connection. It was only once I actually experienced it and felt that support from others in the community that I thought, wow, this is the real deal. This is where it gets serious. I love this. I'm going to talk more about my path. I'm going to talk more about my trials and tribulations. I'm going to, because damn it, this feels good. It feels wonderful to connect with the community in such a real way. So, you know, not everybody starts out realizing that they are in fact looking for community, I suppose. So I guess the level of vulnerability that I've been prepared to show has certainly grown, but you know, I still feel that I am entitled to hold back other parts of my character, my opinions, other parts of my life, that I have no shame in and I have no difficulty with discussing, and I would have no problem with anyone knowing about. However, it is not central to the core of what I'm doing here with this channel. And I am really, really a fan of categorizing and compartmentalizing. That's what I do. So I suppose that's part of my character too. Like, I have 1,000,001 notebooks and journals for 1,000,001 different things. I do not like things to overlap. I like stationery for everything. So I can't have like one subject mixed in with another in the same book. They all have to be different books. Everything has to be categorized. So I suppose I'm just trying to stick within the category that I have kind of like created. But I suppose even when you're not looking for a connection, or even when you're not looking for validation of any kind online, or when you don't think that you go into this kind of situation where you are giving somebody a part of you and letting somebody into your life and your thoughts, you don't think that you are concerned about what others think of you, and you don't think that you're worried about how you're coming across. But the other day, after I uploaded a video, which was a really pretty innocuous video with some tarot advice in it and stuff, I lost 6 subscribers in like a few hours. And I noticed it because I came back online a few hours later and I noticed it, and I totted it up in my head and I thought, bloody hell, that's a lot of subscribers to lose that quickly. And I wondered if I'd said something really untoward in the video. And of course, I would always rather that somebody simply unsubscribed from me if they didn't want to see the content that I have, or if they felt offended to the point of no return by something that I'd said or done. I'd always prefer that they unsubscribed from me than start a flame war with me or tell me that, you know, I'm a no good bag of nothing. Obviously, I'd prefer that they slipped away silently. So, you know, that's a good thing. But it could have been a complete coincidence, because subscribers do drop and rise, and it's not really something that I've ever been so concerned about. I'm much more excited, I suppose, by comments. That's my thing, and that's why I've turned the like and dislike buttons off on my channel, because I figured that it's a very passive and immediate way for somebody to react to something. And I would much rather that if people were very moved by something that I wrote, to the extent that they wanted to say something about it, that they would write a comment, because that would be kind of more interactive, and I love words. I'm a very communicative person. So I thought that would be the best thing for me. I just wanted to turn the like and dislike buttons off. Similarly, if I've said something that somebody disagreed with, I would much prefer that they voice it and communicate it and we have a discussion about it, rather than them just clicking dislike and moving on. I think that's very reductive. So that's why I switched those buttons off. But yeah, I didn't realise that I was going to be so bothered by the loss of 6 subscribers in one day. But I started to really wonder if I had done something to offend. And it really started to concern me. And then I thought to myself, well, am I prepared to stand by everything that I put on this channel? Am I prepared to stand up and say, these are my beliefs and that's why I uploaded them onto the channel? Definitely. So there's no point in losing sleep over it. There really isn't. I can only say and put forth what I feel moved to and what I feel called to. And if people don't gel with that, then that's completely fine. And I know that it's nothing personal, because there are certain people that I come across on YouTube that I don't gel with. So I don't subscribe, or I don't intend to come back and watch again. But it's absolutely nothing personal. I'm just looking for a specific kind of subject or a specific kind of energy that I want to fill my YouTube time with, my YouTube quota. And some people make the cut and some people don't. So if I'm prepared to stand by what I say and what I do on this channel, then I should not lose any sleep over whether or not it is acceptable to somebody else. So what I would say when people are wondering, you know, what do people want to be seen as? What do I want to be seen as by people in the YouTube community? What do I want them to think of me? Rather than asking that question, I would kind of suggest that the question be asked, what part of me do I want them to see? Because then you're coming from a really pure place. Like, if you are putting yourself out there on a blog or on a channel or on a website, and you've ever been concerned about what other people see when they look at you, what other people think of you, or, you know, what you think they might expect from you, always turn it round and think of the part of you that's inside that you want them to have access to. So you're not looking outside for the answer. You're not trying to mold yourself, and I'm not specifically talking to you at all, Shannon. These are just thoughts that I came across through watching your video. When people think about what others might want to see, it's always really important to turn that in and think to yourself, what part of me do I want to put forward? You know, like with me, for example, when I realised that this channel was going to become something with a bit more raw content on it and personal content on it than I first thought, I wondered to myself, what am I really wanting to show people of me? You know, what part is it of me that really wants to come out on this channel? Because something obviously does, and, you know, I've obviously felt a connection with others who've put forth information about their personal trials and their spiritual pathways. So, what part of me is it that I wish to expose and make vulnerable? I've never ever thought to myself, what would people want to see? What would people like to see? What would impress people? Never. Because that's not coming from a pure place. And pretty soon I know that I'm going to hate the channel and give up on the channel and not enjoy it anymore because it's not coming from within. When I was younger, I used to do things like that. When I was growing up, of course, before you get secure in the seat of your personal power and before you're able to speak your personal truth, etc., etc., that adolescent time, you do think, what would people expect of me? What do people want from me? What should I be in order to, you know, attract the right things to me? It doesn't come from within very much because you're unstable and you are more concerned about how the world perceives you. But by this ripe old age of 28, I'm never going to think like that. I'm always going to think about, you know, what part of me am I trying to make vulnerable? Let me get in touch with that so I can really put it across. Because I know that I can't be anything else at this point, and I really can't. It's not for want of trying at times, but I am pretty much stuck like this. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to go through 1,000,001 spiritual evolutions before I die and learn 1,000,000 more lessons. But essentially, this is the way that I communicate. And it's like you said, Shannon, about how you wonder if you should make more video responses to people, and that's how you'll be able to be more communicative and create more of a sense of openness and be able to put your words across well, because I know you said that you had difficulty with that, or you said that you felt maybe you should write some notes down, but then you thought, God, I'm not a newscaster, that's not really coming from a pure place. You've got to experiment and you've got to evolve. I think you've got to find new ways of really putting across what you want to say and how you want to connect with other people. What's the best way to connect with other people, I suppose. I've loved making some video responses and kind of taking things on with a new angle, but that's because I love the pagan community vibe on YouTube. I absolutely love it, and I know people go through their ups and downs with it, but at the moment I'm just completely in love with it. I just think it feels so great to just take that debate and keep it rolling and keep kind of batting the ball around. I think it feels really great to do that. And with regard to notes and stuff, I do actually make a few brief notes, and I put them, they're just words, like a few words per video to remind me of the main things that I want to talk about. And I don't think that's at all disingenuous. I need that. If you ever see me looking down very briefly while I'm still talking, that's what I'm doing. I'm reminding myself of the next point. I don't do all of my videos like that, but if I know it's going to be a bloody long one, particularly when it's addressing a very specific subject or I'm trying to teach something to do with tarot, then yeah, I will definitely write a few brief words to help me keep my train of thought and to make sure that I remember to say everything that I wanted to say, because that's very frustrating when you watch back later to make sure, you know, that it's that YouTube hasn't cut anything off or whatever and everything's fine, and as you're scrolling through you think, oh damn, I meant to mention that and I completely forgot, and that was so central to what I was saying. So yeah, that kind of thing would annoy me, so that's why I do that. So I think it's just finding your particular way of communicating what you want to say, and anything that comes from you to do, any idea that you have about how you want to communicate something does come from a pure place because it came from you. It was like you were sat there thinking to yourself, how can I best communicate this? How can I best put this forth? And whatever idea you come up with is the idea you were supposed to come up with. It's an evolution. It's a constant evolution of communication. And it's learning, it's trial and error. And I think that's why that vulnerability thing that we've discussed is a spectrum. And you kind of have to work out where you are on that spectrum. And you maybe need to do that with each video, or at least with the videos where you feel you're really putting something very personal out there. I think it's maybe important to check where you are on that scale and see if you're okay with it. So these are just thoughts that I've had. And just finally, before I leave this video, where it is, I just wanted to say I was on an internet forum for a really long time. I'm still on it now, but I don't post very regularly, but I was on it pretty hardcore for about 10 years of my life, and I'm not joking. And it played a really big part in my life. There are people on that internet forum that I still speak to now and that I'm pretty sure that I will consider lifelong friends of mine. And on that internet forum, I recall there being a thread started, well, a few different threads started over a period of time, where people on there, members on there, particularly new members or markedly insecure members, would start what do you think of me threads. And this practice became outlawed on the forum. People just started doing it, and it kind of snowballed. Somebody would start a thread saying, what is your perception of me, guys? I mean, from an outside perspective, outside looking in, what do you really think of me? What kind of vibe do I give off? What kind of energy? Do I annoy you? Is there anything I do that irritates you? And eventually, this kind of thing was quickly stopped. The moderator, the owner of the forum, was like, look, we can't be having these questions. This is ridiculous. It's just not going to work. You've got to stop it. It's too much of a breeding ground for passive aggression, insecurity, etc. And it's just going to make people feel bad. And I think that a lot of the reason that we struggle in the dark so much with how other people perceive us or how we want to be perceived is because we can't ask the question, what do you think of me? And I think it's really good that we can't ask that question, because of course that is not a question that needs to be asked. The journey is the journey of the self, you know. And I think that's a lot of the point of people talking about standing in your personal power, living authentically and finding your true voice and putting it forth. Those are very important things to me, and I will talk about them all on the channel at one point or another when I get more Friday nights on my own. But yeah, you know, I think that's one of those questions, those burning questions that on that forum at that time, people just were letting themselves go to the point where they just asked. They were so intrigued to know. They really wanted to understand where they fitted into the system and where they fitted into other people's perceptions, that they were out and out asking the question. And I felt really sorry for those people, because I felt, God, you are so insecure in your own core being that you feel that it's more important to know what other people's perceptions are than it is for you to figure out what your perception is of yourself and whether or not you're comfortable with that. And that was just something that it reminded me of when we were talking about levels of vulnerability and, you know, this back and forth of whether or not it's okay to maintain a sense of control over how vulnerable you are. But yeah, you know, I've really realised, especially tonight watching Flora's amazing video, I've really realised that it's obvious that showing your vulnerability creates a sense of connection. And I think whether or not it's English of me to feel that too much vulnerability kind of spoils the stew and isn't helpful to the community and so on, I do feel that obviously it does take that to make a connection. It really does. And the channels that I return back to on YouTube are 9 times out of 10 the channels where people are just talking openly and honestly about their spiritual evolution. And that's something that I really value and appreciate. And that is something that I think is very, very brave, however you choose to do it. Thanks for listening, guys. Blessed be.